Okay. Raise your hand if you've ever felt like an outsider. Come on. Okay. All right. My first impression of Taft was that I would never belong. I made that assumption after a few short weeks. I never let many people know this because I covered it up with a smile on my face in the hallways, but I spent countless hours crying to my advisor about how I didn't belong here. Of course, this wasn't true because I'm still here, and I was hand-selected by Mr. Fru's staff as a student that could thrive within the Taft community. We all are. Notice how I said we and not you. We are members of the Taft community. Someone loves us and is rooting for us, although it might not be everyone. It could be an advisor, a monitor. It's up to each one of us to determine who is the most powerful influence in our lives at Taft. We might determine one person as the most significant, yet there are constantly several people working to keep each of us happy. This is what dorm parents, advisors, monitors, class committee, and the dean's office unite to do. I wasn't the typical Taft student from Greenwich, and it pained me to say so my freshman year. I overcompensated for not being from Fairfield County by talking about Texas excessively. But the first time I truly felt like I belonged at Taft was my sophomore year when someone thought that I was from the city. But don't worry, this isn't a speech about being yourself. Taft doesn't make being happy as easy as it was in middle school because it prepares you for the real world. Trying to be happy at Taft is more like resolving an argument with a sibling. It's often difficult, but it pays off, and the love is unconditional. Happiness at Taft takes effort like it does in reality. That's why Taft is so great. It prepares us for the real world in this perspective. Happiness at Taft begins with talking yourself to sleep with your best friend on the bunk below you and waking up together the next morning. It's on your way to morning meeting when you realize that Lincoln is talking on a banana phone. When you find your friends in the dining hall to have coffee together after morning meeting to satisfy your newfound caffeine addiction, and then meet each other for lunch after your quizzing goes. Happiness is the night of an Oriocos or a coffee house performance. It's also playing peekaboo with the faculty kids while eating breakfast for dinner, because where else are babies such big celebrities? Happiness at Taft is Nicole Jark or some other sweet girl saying hi in the hallways. It's Friday night feeds in the dorms after you've already ordered pizza. And happiness at Taft is when Instagram becomes a hobby. It is going to the jig at 7, but if your happiness moments are during study hall, you're probably doing something wrong. Unless you're pranking your monitors. Happiness at Taft is drinking milkshakes on G's nights at upperclassmen scene, or staying up late in the dormitories to watch movies when you should be writing an essay. And happiness at Taft is living in a 20-girl dorm with 4 other Issabellas. Apart from these little moments that entertained me along the way, I had one primary motivation: my senior brick. I wanted to leave behind a legacy of my time at Taft. Each brick inherently represents the 2,000 hours that its student has dedicated to homework alone. And believe me when I say that 2,000 hours is an absolute minimum. All that you have learned after your 4 years is virtually compounded into a 6-pound brick, some knowledge of which you'll never use again past high school. For me, calculus. But knowledge is not the only thing that your brick represents. It represents 4 years of memories with some people who you will know for the rest of your life, because those are the kinds of relationship that Taft bonds. Although the bricks are small things, they have big and sentimental meaning. And seniors, we have almost made it.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Fernando Fernandez, the most common name at Taft, 4-year senior. Trying to think about what to write for a senior speech is one of the most daunting things to ever do at Taft. The task requires a series of both looking back at what you've done during your Taft career and reflecting on the stories of you and your friends goofing around in the dorms. In an attempt to avoid this, I will tell you about some of the flaws and mistakes in my Taft career. Freshman year. Unlike most freshmen, I tended to talk way too much and tried too hard to make friends that just didn't want to know me. I made the mistake of falling for someone way out of my league, and being the hopeless romantic that I was, and still am, when formal came around, I became even more of a wreck. I asked 7 girls to formal and got rejected by each and every one of them. They shall not be named. I was crazy and still hopeless. I never got above an 80 in physics, and I struggled in Spanish 2 honors, as many would never understand. Although I actually speak the language, guys, I never placed, and I still don't place an accent mark in any of my papers. If you want to look at my last paper, I got an 85 on because of it. Sorry to Mrs. Fru, Senora Lara, Senora Santos, and Mr. Conroy for all the suffrage that I made you guys go through on putting accent marks. Athletically, I was even worse. Getting cut from 3rds and 4th soccer, which is so rare at Taft, and getting put into the elite intramural soccer squad with Mr. Otako, I still landed on my ass every time. I couldn't kick a ball, and I was a mess. I tried out for 3rd squash in the winter, got put in intramural. I tried out for JV baseball in the spring, ended up doing track. I was not good. Sophomore year, I calmed down a little. I began to find some of my closest friends that year. I focused too much on work and didn't realize that for the first time at Taft, I was actually liked by a girl. I played way too many games in the HET3 common room. Back when the common room was not renovated and had a horrid smell of rotten milk. I began to play football as an offensive lineman and again landed on my ass thanks to Brendan Foley, Adam Parker, and John Zikcheski. I thought about doing wrestling, and thank God it only remained a thought. And it didn't apply for school year abroad, which I really wanted to. And also, for some unobscure reason, I thought about running and jumping in track. Junior year, I turned back into a mess. I, as do many Tafties, wanted to cry thanks to AP Biology. There was just too much material. However, the best part is reading the letter in which you wrote at the beginning of the year, in which I had hoped for a 5 in the AP, a 95 in the class, and a definite dedication to medicine. I've got none of those. I got a 3 on the exam, an 82 in the class, and a change in career paths. Don't get me wrong, the class is great, but it just wasn't for me. I had no idea where I wanted to go to college, and after 2 days of only having Naviant, I had 35 colleges on my list. I took upon too many tasks, pushing me even closer to insanity by the end of junior year. Senior year. I left most of my college applications until the last minute, causing me to have to work even harder to try and balance apps and classes. I didn't work as hard as I should have during the second half of my first semester, and I didn't do as much as I wanted to. Although I look at my flaws and see how much I've messed up at Taft, there've definitely been some great memories. Going to the mall with friends just to aimlessly walk around for 4 full laps without doing anything. Winning the 2011 football championships with the team. Being a part of an amazing trip such as Outreach 360 and meeting new people. Baking for 4 straight hours in Mac basement with Mr. Clifford and Miss Monty's mixer and a dedicated minion crew. Attending debate tournaments and seeing Taft students excel in them. Sitting in the jig for hours upon hours just talking to some friends. Getting my senior shirt at the Hawaiian dance last year. Performing Step for Red Riot year after year. Competing to get better in football and in discus against Cardi for track. Usually having dinner and laughing at the same table in the dining hall for 2 hours straight. Going to feeds with my advisory group. Trying to hold the ultimate feed for my advisor on his birthday. Traveling to Italy and San Fran with Collegium. And giving blood for the only time at Taft that I actually can, thanks to my age. Taft experiences are completely different person to person. I truly can say that I've had a roller coaster experience, as no part of my life has been simple coming to Taft. But then again, is that what Taft is here for? No. It is just to push you to your limits and bring you closer to the people that you least expect. It is practically impossible for me to shout out every person that I would love to, but here goes. The first goes to my closest friends, practically family, who have suffered and enjoyed my presence from time to time. The next goes to my 4-year advisor, Mr. Heavenrich. Shout out to my dorm parents, Mr. Caesars, Mrs. Vidati, Mr. Bernier, Mr. Richardson, and Mr. Lehner. Thanks to every teacher at Taft who has helped me because it has brought me closer to where I am today. Shout out to the seniors as we finish our years and go our separate ways. May we make these last few weeks as memorable as possible. Special shout out goes to David Craven and our freshman year in Dr. Willis's English class. Thanks to my parents who have given me the opportunity to come to Taft and have always been there for me and know how to get in touch with anybody if I ever need them. Dad, thanks for always being that really corny father that you really don't want to have at Parents' Day. Mom, thanks for always being a call away and for always giving me sound advice when I need it. To the admissions and financial aid office, thanks for dealing with my shenanigans and for always being flexible whenever I needed something. To Mr. Reverend and the kitchen staff, thanks for always being there for me when I needed the supplementary materials for my baking sessions. And finally, a shout out to the classes that I've had at Taft and the teams that I am on, including varsity football, girls varsity basketball, and varsity track. My message to everyone here is to take advantage of the time you have left. Cherish it and be daring. If you want to walk back with that hot girl, do it. If you think you want to go out for improv, do it. If you're a singer and are thinking about hydrox and Oryokos, although I didn't make it, audition for it. Although rejections are unavoidable, at least when you graduate Taft, you don't ask what if. I've done most of what I think was meant for me here at Taft. Now it's your turn. Seniors, we have a few weeks, specifically 88 days, left until we leave for good. Although it sounds promising now, make sure that you don't regret the legacy that you left behind. Don't hide from the opportunity that Taft has, because you'd be surprised when you have the most fun and when you'll find the girl that you like the most. Thank you.